In its historical sections, the Bible contains information on the lives of many people over more than 2,000 year span. We know quite a bit about a small number of those people, but only a little bit about most of them. Even as partial records of people's lives, it becomes clear as you read the Bible that there are many examples of honorable and loving mothers in the Bible. Unfortunately, when it comes to fathers, the list is a lot shorter. Some of the Bible's most important and famous men struggled in their role as a father. For example, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob all favored one son over their others, causing bitter rivalries between the boys and conflict. The priests, Eli and Samuel, while training the people, failed to train their own sons to respect and honor God with disastrous consequences. David, of course, committed adultery and failed to discipline his eldest son, leading to his eventual rebellion against his father. In all likelihood, many of the men in the Bible were good fathers. We just don't know about that part of their lives. As is often the case, it's those who struggled as a father that stand out and are remembered. But of those that we would be willing to say from what we know about them that they were a good father, one stands out for his integrity and his dedication to the relationship that his children had with the Lord. Unfortunately, his story as a father is also the most tragic one in the Bible due to the unthinkable grief that he and his wife endured as parents. That man, as you may already have guessed, is Job. So beginning in the book of Job, we're going to look at the first 5 verses today about Job as a father. Beginning in verse 1, it says, "In the land of Uz there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil." Now, we don't know a lot about the facts that surround the life of Job. He lived about the same time as Abraham, more or less. We're not sure exactly when. And he lived in the lands that are to the east of the Jordan River. Who the author of this account was, or when it was first written down, we're also not sure about. Job himself, in case you're wondering, was not Jewish. He was neither an ancestor nor a descendant of Abraham. And yet, he knew God. We're told that he was blameless and upright, that he feared God and shunned evil. God revealed himself to Abraham, calling him to leave Ur and go to the promised land. We don't know how Job knew God, but along with Melchizedek, another contemporary of Abraham who we're told knew God, it is clear to us that God was revealing himself to more people than just Abraham. Neither Job nor his descendants had a covenant with God, like the one that God made with Abraham. Yet even without a covenant like that, Job demonstrated that he feared, honored, respected, and obeyed God. To say that he was blameless and upright does not mean that Job was perfect, of course. Rather, it indicates that his reputation in his society was spotless. None of his family, his friends, his rivals, even his enemies could accuse Job rightly of moral failure. As former President McKinley once said, "Greater tribute than this can no man bring, that those who know you best love you most." So why did Job fear God? Well, it wasn't because he was afraid of God. For Job will demonstrate in this book, in the trial that is to come to him, that he knew God well enough to trust him no matter what happened in life. Job feared God then because he respected the power and authority of God. He understood that in relation to God, he's just a man. To be a good father, one must also be a good man. Job ensured that his own relationship with God was on solid footing by living his life in a way that honored God and he ensured that his relationships with the people in his life were also on solid footing by choosing to do what was right and shunning evil. Too often a man will fail as a father because he first fails as a man. We may try to compartmentalize our lives into separate silos, to separate our job from our relationship with our spouse, to our relationship with our children and in our community. But it doesn't work like that. In the end, who you are in all aspects of your life affects how you are as a father, and vice versa. This is the reason why in the New Testament Paul warns that no man can be a pastor of God's church if he does not also honor God in his role as a husband and a father. A man then who cheats on his wife is not a good father. A man who steals from his employer is not a good father. A man who abuses his own body with harmful substances is not a good father. It isn't about their effort. It isn't about whether or not they love their children. It's about their character. And also a man who neglects his own spiritual discipleship by failing to honor God, by failing to take his practice of religion seriously, cannot be a good father. Some will get away with neglecting a part of their life for a while. The effects may not be felt for years, but in the end, men, we must be morally upright and free from evil in all aspects of our lives if we are to be the kind of father that our children need and the kind of father that God has commanded us to be. If you're sitting here today feeling guilty for your failure with the mother of your children, or for your failure as a provider, or even for failure with substance abuse, use that guilt as motivation to turn from sin, to not repeat your mistakes, and to live by God's grace now and from this day forward as the man that God wants you to be. It's not too late to make a new start. Even if your children are all grown up, even if you haven't seen them in some time, it's not too late to be the father that you should be. Job was a good man. That didn't guarantee that he would be a good father, but it gave him the chance to be a good father. The second verse, we're told he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. Now, Job's wife deserves quite a bit of credit here, of course. Given the high mortality rate in the ancient world, to have 10 adult children could indicate that she had several more pregnancies beyond those 10. Even if she did not, 10 is a pretty significant number. I know that just chasing Clara around is enough effort. My goodness. And I've known some people from big families. When I was in college, one of my teammates, her mother was pregnant. She was 18, her mother was pregnant now with their, I think, 10th child. And that was pretty amazing to me. In cases like that, both parents deserve some sort of award for just living through it, I think. I see Melissa shaking her head saying, one was enough for me. Well, we know that Job loved his children. We'll see an example of that as we continue with the text. He must have been proud of them. Each of them were part of his family business, and we'll find out they were a very close-knit bunch. In the 3rd verse, we're told, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. I forgot the slide there that says how many sheep and camels and oxen and donkey he had, but you'll just trust me on that. In addition to being a morally upright man and a good father, Job clearly had a head for business that enabled him to run the ancient world's equivalent of a corporation. It was a family-owned and operated business. But Job also had numerous employees that he was responsible for. Not to mention, if you add them up, over 11,000 animals. It's a lot. When did he find the time for it all? Who knows? Job must have been a tremendous leader, able to inspire others and delegate. And one could assume that his children also were hard workers as they contributed to the success of their family. We're told that he was the greatest man among all the people of the East. Job, according to those who knew him, was a great man. He appeared to have it all: a great reputation for high moral character, a solid relationship with God, a large family, and a very prosperous business. This list alone would qualify Job for a Father of the Year award. But as we will learn from verses 4 and 5, the details of his relationship with his children will earn him even more praise. On to verse 4. His sons used to take turns holding feasts in their homes, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. I think that first line is pretty amazing. For anybody that has had more than one child, you're probably surprised to hear that his sons took turns. That's not even an easy thing sometimes, to get boys to take turns. But the next line is pretty incredible too. They invited their sisters to join them. That's a big deal. Parents don't deserve all the credit if their kids get along, nor do they deserve all the blame if they don't. But Job and his wife must have done something right for all 10 of their kids to be so friendly with each other. Peace and harmony within the home is no small task. It isn't likely to happen naturally without the parents first having a harmonious relationship with each other, and also demonstrating themselves with their children both patience and discipline, love and responsibility. If this was all we knew about Job as a father, we could reasonably call him one of the best fathers in the whole Bible. What we learn of him in the next verse will put him at the top of that list. So let's look at the key to our text this morning. Verse 5 says this: When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would send and have them purified. Early in the morning he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned, and curse God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. Like Melchizedek, Job was the priest for his family. In addition to being their father and doing a great job in that role, Job also acted as an intermediary between his children and God. Job believed that it was his responsibility to ensure that his children, all 10 of them, had a proper relationship with God. It is a father's purpose to provide as best he can for his children's physical needs. This is a truth recognized by law and so accepted by society that the term deadbeat dad is well known for those who fail in that fundamental responsibility. It's less well known and not universally acknowledged that it's also a father's purpose and responsibility to provide as best he can for the spiritual needs of his children. The help of the child's mother is, of course, crucial, but we've been remiss as a society and as a church for failing to insist that fathers play an active role in leadership of their children's spiritual relationship, in helping to teach their children about God and training them to honor and obey God. For the sake of the children, this is a task we cannot continue to overlook, and a duty we cannot continue to offload on the mothers only. I know that circumstances surrounding work can get in the way. The need to fulfill the obligation to provide for the physical needs of your family can interfere with the obligation to provide for the spiritual needs of your family. That's a legitimate obstacle that needs to be overcome, but we can't allow it to become an excuse to neglect our duty as fathers, to be the spiritual leader that our family needs us to be. Men, fathers in particular, of course, but men, I encourage you, I implore you, to be who your children need you to be spiritually for their sake. The first step to fulfilling your responsibility is to build up your relationship with God through reading the Word of God, through prayer, and through worshiping here with God's people. And being, of course, morally upright in all that you do. Then and only then can you lead by example, showing your children what a godly man looks like, and proving to them by your actions, by your words, and your attitudes that God matters to you. And so he should matter to them. Ladies, mothers in particular, encourage your husbands in this. Pray for them. Support their effort to be actively involved in the spiritual upbringing of your children. I know that some of them aren't interested. Some of them are not walking with the Lord. Some of them are not yet saved by the grace of God. In that case, continue to pray for them. Hold on to the hope that they will come to the Lord. For God can transform any man, even a prideful or stubborn one, into an honorable and faith-filled husband and father, just like Job. Notice that what Job did for his children cost him something. Each burnt offering represented an animal from Job's flocks, 10 of them when he sacrificed for each of his children, as often as his children had one of these regular feasts. Job may have been a successful businessman, but this wasn't a negligible cost that he was willing to pay on behalf of his children. Notice also that Job did this for each of his 10 children. He didn't consider any one of them to be too good to need a sacrifice. He didn't consider any one of them to be too bad to be helped by a sacrifice. None of them were fine on their own without his help in his mind. And none of them were a lost cause beyond his help. Notice his thought process. He thought, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Why did Job go through the time and the effort and the expense of these sacrifices? Not because he had evidence that his children had offended God, simply out of an abundance of caution, because his children might have offended God. Job was unwilling to take any risk, even a small one, with his children's relationship with God. It's for this reason that Job is one of the best, if not the best, father in the Bible. Excluding, of course, he's not competing against God the Father. That's not fair. God the Father is perfect, and that's not a good comparison, of course. Amongst mortal men, I think he's probably the best one we have in the whole Bible. Job took care of his own moral standings in the community. Job ensured that he was blameless and upright. Job honored and feared God. He ran a successful business. He was personally involved in the relationship between his children and God, doing everything he could to ensure that all of his children were right with the Lord. What more could you ask of Job? Now, our last thought. This was Job's regular custom. Job was also, on top of all of that, consistent. It's a great thing to see a man make an extraordinary gesture on behalf of his family. Some supreme act of sacrifice or dedication or devotion. Like when Jairus rushed to find Jesus, to beg him to come and heal his dying daughter, and then followed Jesus in faith back to the house where Jesus raised her from the dead. That moment of extraordinary devotion is amazing. But what most kids need is not a superhero, but a consistent and dedicated father. One who avoids the immorality that would threaten his family. One who continues to provide for them day in and day out. And one who is willing to dedicate himself to being the spiritual influence in their lives that their kids need. Showing them his own faith. Leading them to the grace and truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. For those who have failed in the past, there is still time to make amends and be who you should be moving forward. For those who don't know how to be a spiritual guide to their children, maybe you're hearing this and thinking, I have no idea what to do. Well, this church, and myself in particular, would be happy to help you figure that out. Understand what it takes to be a disciple. Understand what it takes to be a father who spiritually leads his children. All you need to do is come talk to me anytime. Glad to talk. For those of you who are weary, maybe you're weighed down by the burden of your job. Maybe you're struggling to just do what is needed day by day. Don't lose heart. Don't concede defeat. We can help you. If your burden is too heavy, there is no shame in admitting it. None of us is an island. We all need help from time to time. And for those of you whose children have gone astray, despite perhaps your best effort, remember, God is the God of healing and restoration, the God of second chances and undeserved grace. He won't give up on your children, and you must not either. To be a good father like Job and like our Heavenly Father is no small task. It is a noble calling and a heavy responsibility. But God has made you equal to the task. By His grace, you can be everything for your family that God intends you to be. Not perfect, not superhuman, but morally upright, dependable, trustworthy, loving, kind-hearted, gentle, strong, and above all, spiritually invested in the relationship between your children and Almighty God, who is the Father of us all.